And then I got into unguided meditation, and that's where I really learned a lot about our own connection to source, gnosis, direct knowing.
I can see why the world put us together.
My consciousness can express itself in a variety of forms.
I want to create physical and psychological safe spaces for people to express their authentic selves.
Reality is a field of information that is structured by thought, moved through by emotion, and shaped by your consciousness.
Hi, I'm Jim Fielding. Welcome to Ask for an Answer. Hello, kind and curious human beings. I am so excited to be here for another episode of Ask for an Answer with Jim Fielding. I'm just going to warn you guys up front. This is going to be a very personal episode because I have a lot of questions for my guest based on the work that she does. Kristen Shelt, I'm so excited you're here today. Please introduce yourself and tell our viewers and listeners a little bit about you.
Hi, Jim. Thank you so much for inviting me on. It is truly my pleasure. So my name is Kristen Shelt, and I am a founder of a company by the name of Etherwell. And I am also, I think, a rookie of corporate America. And I think that that's where our connection probably is most transparent. So, just a short little bit about me. So I've been in corporate America for 35 years. Some really good companies, Toyota and Capital One, mostly financial services, Progressive Insurance, USAA, just really great, outstanding companies. And in 2018, I had, kind of a medical emergency. I was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and that diagnosis kind of changed my life and has brought me to where I am today with the founding of my company, and just a lot of work on coherence training. I'm about to launch a coherence coaching platform for individuals who know that probably the easiest way to have a peaceful life is through alignment of your thoughts and your feelings and your actions. So that's the short and dirty version of me.
No, and you're right. I mean, the world, karma has brought us together because I literally was 35 plus years in corporate America at big brands like you, and was pivoted or forced to pivot, I guess, because the company that I was working for was purchased. Disney purchased 20th Century Fox. Of course, my dogs are barking. Okay, kind and curious humans. Guess what? That was a technical difficulty driven by the lovely Olive and Cricket, my dogs, who normally are very cooperative during recording. And I thought I had planned everything. But Kristen, ask me. Let's have the conversation we were having off camera. Ask me, because I learned literally in 2 minutes from you.
So what I asked Jim was, because his dogs made a lot of ruckus, and he came back in explaining himself and apologizing. And I asked him, do you often feel like there is going to be some sort of interruption? Because this is something you do every day. You interview people every day, right?
Right.
And so something that I teach is that our thoughts and our emotions have energy. And as much as we try and control outcomes, like I know that you prepared with your partner and you told them, I'm about to have an interview, and you probably gave the dogs treats. All of that preparation oftentimes cannot counteract the chronic thought that something will go wrong. I'm not trying to say just stop thinking that, but acknowledgement, which is metacognition, acknowledgement of that thought process that continually goes through your mind every day, or however often you do interviews, is a contributing factor to what happens.
I think it's fascinating because, I said to Kristen when she asked me that, I'm a constant in recovery control freak and anal retentive. And so I do, as I prepare for these things, try to prepare. I love my dogs, by the way. I don't want to get any hate mail from people about dogs. But Kristen literally heard me say, God damn it, girl, shut up, because it was so loud. And I told her they were doing their job because I think somebody rang the doorbell. So again, you cannot anticipate everything. But, when I answered your question, I try to make sure the ambiance is right and the noise level is right and the lighting's right and all that kind of stuff.
Can I ask you one more question?
It's funny. Yeah, but it makes it funny. This is great. Then I started laughing because then I was like, oh my God, this is embarrassing. But anyway.
So actually that's very rich data for me. In the 5 seconds before you got up and went to take care of it. And because the other question we have to ask is, did you just behave how you wanted to? Like if that's okay.
No.
Okay.
No.
So oftentimes behavior that we're not happy with, or we don't prefer, that we try to control by preparing for it up front, never happens. Alignment and coherence is truly giving yourself the space in the moment to act how you would want. Now, it might have been necessary to do that because we certainly have to continue the interview, right?
Right.
But in the 5-8 seconds prior to getting up and taking care of it, what was going through your mind?
These are such great questions. I mean, frustration for sure, because I was like, wait a minute, like we do this, to your point, almost every day. I was embarrassed because I'm also very conscious of your time. Like I'm conscious of time, right? And I know how busy you are. And I think it's my guest orientation in general. I think my entire career was so guest focused that I'm like, this is not fair. I have to stop this. And I'm wasting her time while, frankly, I take care of something that I thought was already taken care of, right? So I think that's where the frustration comes in. But your question, no, like I didn't want to have to go yell at the dogs and stop and start and everything else. But I think
what I teach,
the patterns come out, right? I mean, the patterns of
what I teach people, and we're getting to this really quick, is the loop process, which is a process of, this is a fancy name for saying just being able to observe your thoughts and feelings and choose an aligned action. And the real beauty of this is that the acknowledgement and the practice of metacognition, observing your own thoughts as they're happening, observing your own feelings as they're happening, that's the skill. You're not required to do anything different. I'm not going to say, okay, all of a sudden you should in the 10 seconds have decided something different. It's the acknowledgement of, and this is called the loop, right? Listen, observe, orient, and own it, and then pivot or proceed. So the listen would have been the moment you started to hear kind of that narrative going, oh my gosh, my plans didn't, all the preparations I made, how do I feel about that? Oh my gosh, I'm so frustrated. Or maybe you had some bad feelings for a moment about your partner or maybe bad feelings about yourself. Underlying that is a deep respect for other people that you have. And so here's the thing, understanding that loop. And if it occurs continuously, it sounds like you do have some big thought structures around it. So it sounds like it's something that concerns you. Not controlling the outcomes, being able to observe in just a few moments, acknowledging and owning that is the story I'm creating. I really don't, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's true or not. I don't feel like I'm being disrespected. It's your story. It's all about you, and owning that, acknowledging it several times over a period of weeks or months will have a huge impact on simply softening your response.
I love loop, by the way. I love that. I'm like playing it in my head right now. And I think it's very similar to something that I talk a lot with my clients lately is we can't control situations. We can control our reactions, right? And so when you asked me, was I happy with how I reacted? I was like, no, like I wasn't, that's not the way I wish I would. First off, to your point, I wish it didn't happen at all. We were getting into a flow and we were just starting the interview, but then no, was I happy with how I reacted? But one of the things I love about aging and the wisdom that comes with aging is I try to fail forward, right? So to your point, I try to learn from it and say, okay, well, I'm not going to make that mistake again. Now, what that means for Jim, most likely is next time I will make sure the dogs are in another room with a closed door, right? Like I'll control it more up front. So if somebody knocks on the door or there's a reason for them to bark, it wouldn't interrupt my flow. But I think that's really, really good learning.
But I think just even us having this 2-minute conversation about it, next time it happens, you will probably immediately shift into metacognition.
Mm-hmm.
And
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, being able to observe your thoughts and your feelings. So anyway.
No, I think for sure. No, yeah, I mean, I've already learned so much and, talking to you for 5 minutes that, this is perfect. It's going to be an amazing episode. So it's also interesting to me when we were talking about the 35 years, big brands. Your pivot kind of came 2018-ish because of health. My pivot came 2019-ish because of corporate restructuring. And so then you're in the pivot and then COVID hit too. And I was wondering, you have this diagnosis, you start the pivot. Did it accelerate because of COVID, or was I don't know how that worked when you were in the middle of the diagnosis and already making this pivot. I'm just curious about that.
I had already been working from home full time since 2014. So the very kind of the process of making that shift just from a how do I work this way for most people in corporate America, that didn't happen for me. So, I'm glad I was able to focus on my health. The real pivot for me after I was diagnosed, because on paper I looked incredibly healthy, right?
Right.
I was working out every day. I was in a marriage, which any marriage that stays together for any amount of time is deemed success, whatever.
Yeah.
I think the pivot for me was when I stopped asking, how do I fix myself, and started asking myself, what am I missing? What unconscious patterns? And not in a blamey kind of way, not in a, it's all my fault, I brought this on myself. But what kinds of patterns am I engaging in or that are operating unconsciously in my life? And that's when I just started, I embraced meditation, and I am a thinker. I lead with my thinking. I'm not a feeler. I've had to work on feeling a large part of my life because I think empathy and ethics is an important part, obviously, of any person's integration and full human development and capacity. So meditation was not, it was not the first go-to for me 25 years ago, but I just started listening to my thoughts and my feelings. And I started meditating every day because I thought this is one thing I haven't tried.
Yeah.
And I found out a lot about how my consciousness moves through me. And I know that maybe your listeners are like, oh, I don't want to do meditation. But, a stillness practice is really the only way you are going to understand yourself.
I think that's so smart. I mean, stillness practice, breath work. Did you do guided meditation? How did you learn how did you build meditation? Because I get asked this question a lot. I meditate as well, but I want to hear how you started the practice, I guess is the best way to say it. If you had to use an app or a tool or something like that.
I think the first few months, I literally just laid in bed and put some calming music on because I felt like I didn't know what I was doing. And I realize now that that's part of, again, my own structure, right? I have to know exactly what I need to do because if I do these things, I will be guaranteed this result.
Yeah.
I kind of jumped into it. Yeah. I just started doing it, right? It's like a lot of things. I felt like I was pretending or acting out meditation. But the truth is, human beings, we do things by pretending how to do them, right? You fall asleep by pretending to sleep every night, right? Imagination and acting as if are incredibly important human superpowers. So then I got an app, and I had my favorite ones, and they were always guided.
Me too.
And then I got, and they were great for kind of calming my nervous system, reducing my anxiety overall about the diagnosis. Very helpful. And then I got into unguided meditation, and that's where I really learned a lot about our own connection to source, gnosis, direct knowing, the kind of innate abilities that all of us have to know source or God or however you refer to that entity. So it was a slow. I don't know how to do it. Let me use some apps. Let me guide it, and then I felt brave enough to just kind of explore myself on my own.
What I love about that story, Kristen, is there's so much of ask for an answer in there because you did it. You literally said, what am I supposed to be learning? What am I supposed to be listening to? What am I not handling correctly? That's so ask for an answer. But also some things again, I can see why the world put us together. I had to learn, like, again, being kind of who I am, I thought like meditation meant I had to be sitting in like a prone position with my legs crossed in like a yurt, right? And it was so funny you said I laid down with music, because I meditate best in like a prone position. I'm not a good sitting meditator for whatever reason. Probably because I don't cross my legs that easily. I'm not that limber, but also our paths are so similar, because I started just by listening. It had to be music, but nonverbal. Like, it couldn't have lyrics. It had to be piano, jazz. It could be any genre really, but it could not have words, because I would instinctively be listening to the words and like almost singing along in my head, which was not my version of meditation. And then moved to apps and sampled guided meditation apps. And for me, I'm still in the guided meditation apps, but I've increased my time. Like, at the beginning, I could only do 5 or 10 minutes, and then I'd be done. I'd be like, okay, I've lost it. I'm, letting thoughts creep in. Now I can go much longer, but I still like I think I'm a coach, but I'm coachable, if that makes sense. And so I like that part of it, but I also had to let go of defining that there's a right way to meditate, or there's a right way to do mindfulness, or there's a right way to do presence or breath work. Like, I was so concerned about doing it correctly. And once I let go of that, it's been a huge part of I think it's been a huge part of my journey.
Yeah.
And health issues that I've gone through in the last 5 years, surgeries and things like that, nothing planned, but you go through it. And I don't think I would have handled those as well if I didn't have that practice kind of in place already.
Yeah.
Because it's for me, so much of it goes back to the letting go of control.
Yeah.
Right. Letting go of control and predictability. So when so when was the pivot where you're like, I think this is my full-time calling, besides my own self-healing I'm doing, now I want to help other people? Like, did that come naturally, or was that, obviously you're a business person and a corporate person, so you have that brain, but I'm just curious about that.
So I don't know that this is here's the thing. I don't know it's my full-time calling, because I still have a corporate job, and then I have this business. And of course, anybody who's straddling that world, right? Yes. You're wanting to make a full-time jump. But the truth is, I would never advise anybody to not be very brutally honest about how we all need money, right? Like, that's just the reality of the situation. So it's not my full-time. How did I know that it was it's interesting, because I have been, I think, unlike maybe a lot of Americans, I have been absent of any kind of structured system for understanding God or death. I was never raised in religion, but I've always known that there is something more to this life. I'm not an atheist. I guess I'm agnostic. And it became increasingly important to me to have a spiritual scaffolding. And I think that just maybe was because of the existential kind of diagnosis, right? If you're diagnosed with cancer like that, there's a whole flood of emotions, but the biggest one is like, because I was only 48, right? It's like, oh my gosh, like, didn't expect it out this early,
Yeah.
And here I'm looking like I'm really healthy.
Yeah.
And there was just kind of an absence of what can I do to prevent that outcome because it's incurable, right? This was something that I was going to have to manage myself if I didn't want a recurrence.
Yes.
And I felt like the only thing I didn't understand was me, right? So what was the pivot? I think that was the pivot, right? It's not my full-time calling. It's more about understanding me, because my consciousness can express itself in a variety of forums. I was good at corporate America because I lead with thinking. I understood what I needed to do. That system, at the same time as I got sick, probably started to become a little bit less fulfilling than I had. Because when you're young, you're like, get to the next promotion.
Totally.
Let me be a junior. Let me be a senior. Let me be a director. Let me be an executive director. Let me be an AVP. Let me be a corporate manager.
Yeah.
Like that is the curriculum. And my consciousness worked well in that kind of structure. But I think the sickness and then the meditation opened up a whole new door to who I was as not just Kristen, but as a kind of connected and forever piece of consciousness in this world. That combined with the fact that I've always been fascinated with science and black holes and quantum theory, it just led me down this path of really educating myself in a lot of different traditions. Traditional physics, quantum physics, Kabbalahism, Rosicrucianism, that gave me what I consider a very practical spiritual scaffolding that I work with now. And I'm very passionate about it. I think that people need to have their daily life connected to their spiritual life. And so, we live in a system where that's outsourced, right? So we outsource. We outsource our divinity. We can't do a whole lot of things unless we're told the right way to do it. Your story about I was not meditating the right way. We're given. But the truth is that we are naturally multidimensional beings who have a direct connection to source. And the best way to get to that connection and improve your life spiritually as well as practically is through meditation or a stillness practice. Well, I said a lot. I'm sorry there.
No. I mean, my mind is just spinning in a very good way. I mean, at the core, I mean, the respect you have for yourself, but also just the respect for human beings and the infinite capacity to learn and grow and be multidimensional, I think is such a great comment. And defining, I love spiritual scaffolding, by the way, that phrase of, making it work for you, and then saying, hey, wait a minute, this is a toolkit that may actually help other people. I also love that instinct in you, because you could have gone you had a health crisis. You could have gone very selfish and been like, okay, I'm going to take care of myself and my immediate family and my partner and that. And you were able to actualize, I guess is the word, and say, you know what? I think this is a system. This is an operating system of sorts, a toolkit that other people could benefit from. I think that's incredible. Especially in the middle of a diagnosis and also what was going on in the world. I mean, the world has been such an interesting place and challenging place in many ways in the last 5, 6, 7 years. There's been a lot of change in, macro changes in the world that also you were dealing with.
Yeah. Yeah. I think at the end of the day, this is where I've landed. I feel like it was always important to me to understand the structure behind reality. I've had a handful of kind of what you might consider extraterrestrial or paranormal experiences throughout my life. I've always thought that everyone had those.
Yeah.
but I've never been afraid. I've always thought there's something else, and what I've developed for myself, which is actually, I think, bled into everything that I'm creating, is this definition of reality. So for me, reality is a field of information that is structured by thought, moved through by emotion, and shaped by your consciousness. And that is, I like to think that that's an informed definition by, again, a lot of the disciplines that I've taken the time to educate myself on. Yeah. It works for me, and it has filled in this gap that I felt that required belief from me. This requires, because it's structural, it's based on knowing, right? I know that definition is probably closer to big T truth than anything I could ever believe.
And I want to come back to the paranormal thing, because that spawned another question. But the building of this system, the building of this process, the building of this scaffolding happened over time. Do you know how long it took? Like, was there a moment where you're like, okay, I've now synthesized all this information I brought in? Like, was there a moment like that? I hate to say like the Oprah aha moment, but was there the moment where you're like, oh, that's it, like the unlock? Or was it just a cumulative building over time?
I think the real heavy click for me happened probably a year ago, where I saw the universal principles as they play out. So Hermeticism requires us to think about, the world or the universe as primarily mental. And then if you connect that to, in the beginning, there was the word that connects to the fact that we live in an energetic and vibratory universe. That makes sense, right? The fact that we love and are relaxed by vibration in our ears. So for me, it's just been, I think, the thread through of all of these disciplines where I finally realized that, everything I'm seeing here, this is energy. It's so much more empty space. And quantum physics will kind of validate everything I'm saying. Oh, isn't that interesting? Like, that's not my experience as a human, right? It can't be my experience as a human. It's mostly empty space. Well, so is kind of our world, right? There's a lot of empty space right now between the furniture I've got over here, right? And we think it's empty. It's not.
It's not.
That's
brilliant. That's brilliant.
And then also me saying, I don't need anybody to tell me whether or not this is true. Like, this is so intuitive. Like, that connects to my knowing about, and I'm not going to go into people are lying or we're being lied to. That all may or not be true.
Right.
In the last year, it's really clicked how the connection between quantum physics, how our shift now from materialism, right? We live in a very material world. Science is divided by materialism. If you can't see it and you can't prove it, it doesn't exist, right?
Right.
And then you've got the separation of kind of the religiosity. You've got to go through a third party in order. That never made sense to me, right? So, the click for everything together came in the last year, and it wasn't any one thing. I think it probably, when I felt confident in what I know, to create the structured water drops that I sell at etherwell.co, and then also just to start talking about the spiritual scaffolding is probably when I was like, oh yeah, this is true. This is true.
Now it's time, right? It's time. I'm ready to share. Okay, let's go back to, I loved your, like, you knew there was something else, this paranormal activity, and you thought everybody was going through that. And then you found out, oh, wait a minute, not everybody's going through it. Did that start when you were young? I mean, do you remember it as a child? Was it an adolescent thing, or was it more of an adult thing?
No, so a handful of things. I was raised in a household that wasn't religious at all. And my mom was into astrology and Edgar Cayce and all of that kind of stuff. So there was kind of this tertiary influence, right? But when I would see things, I would tell my mom and she would just kind of go, oh yeah, that's probably so-and-so, or it's probably just energy or spirits, coming through. So it was never kind of like emergency alarm, that's bad or you're bad. So I had a handful of experience that are to this day remain unexplained to me, or anything that I've tried to explain it with. Some of them could be described as UFO-ish. I've actually had more of those in the last year than I've ever had before.
Interesting.
But I think that it's worth noting that people will experience consciousness and what we consider unexplained things based on their own belief system. I will never see angels because that is not an anchor in my belief system, right? So what counts as angels for you might be kind of orbs for me. It comes through dependent upon, again, how your consciousness has constructed what your belief system is.
Wow. That's fascinating. Fascinating.
What do you think about that? Have you ever had any paranormal experiences? Or
for sure. I think I've not had the UFO one. I tend to have a lot of, I think there's different names for it. I tend to have a lot of deja vu. I tend to have a lot of foreshadowing where I will enter spaces and swear I've been there before, either in this body or form. And I'm like, wait, why am I not remembering this? Or I definitely feel past lives. Like I definitely feel that and I've said this even my mom and dad when I was younger, they're like, you came out of the womb like an old soul. Like, I was kind of, and it's funny, my baby pictures, literally my dad, may he rest in heaven, he's hearing this, I know. When I came out and he looked at me, he said, put him back in. He's not done, because I looked like, I'm going to age myself and any of my listeners. I looked like Mr. Magoo. Remember that cartoon character, Mr. Magoo? I was super scrunched. I was like and it wasn't until I got some meat on me, frankly. I was a little scrawny, and like all of a sudden, like my 0 to 3 to 4 month pictures, I do look like a little old man. And then all of a sudden I start to look like a cute baby because I started to eat too much. But I've always felt this, I think it's probably fair to say, a burden of, I'm able to synthesize information quickly, and I'm able to synthesize information faster than a lot of other human beings around me. And when I was particularly at Disney, where we did a lot of personal development and coaching, and I got in my first executive coach, it actually was a deterrent to my team, because I thought everybody synthesized information quickly. Yeah. Like I could walk in and we could have a very complex problem, and I would have like 3 solutions in my head immediately. And then because I cannot play poker, I would wear that emotion on my face. You saw it a little bit with the dogs. And I would get frustrated with the team, but they could sense that frustration. Yeah. And the coach who started to observe me would pull me out and say, you're not being fair. They're synthesizing the information. They just don't synthesize it as fast as you do. Like your ability to problem solve like this and basically be on the fly is a strength, but it's coming across as a weakness with your team. Right. And so I think, and I also have felt I was thinking of movies when you were talking, Kristen, because again, I'm dating myself. And ironically, I'm going to talk about 2 Jodie Foster movies. There's a Jodie Foster movie called Little Man Tate. Yep. That is about her extremely intelligent son who is so burdened with the worries of the world that he's almost crippled, because he literally is seeing all this interplay of like government and socioeconomic. And when my sister saw that movie, and my mom and dad, they all called me and they started calling me Tate, because they're like, oh my God, that movie sums you up. And then the other one I was thinking of was the movie Contact that she was in, which is a movie that I talk about it and people are like, not a lot of people love it. That's a movie I watch over and over again, because I'm so, first off, I think it's a very good movie. I like Jodie Foster, but I think it's a very good movie. But there's some lines in there that just make you open up your mind to the possible. And I, like you, I think the commonality is I've never just assumed it was us. I've never just assumed it was, the people I could touch, like the human forms I could touch. And I am also very energy driven. And I think the older I get, again, I keep talking about older today, but the wiser I get today is I'm so much about my own energy management and time and allotment. I'm much more selfish with that now than when I was younger. I think I was a pleaser when I was younger, and I'm still pleasant to be around, but I'm not as much of a pleaser anymore. Like if I don't feel energy alignment, I won't put a lot of effort in. I'm not going to just turn and walk away and be rude, but if I don't feel simpatico or whatever the right word is, I think it's a little bit of empath, a little bit of sympathy, but, I was just thinking about that. So I tend to come at it from, it's interesting. I was raised in a religious household, but I always say I'm spiritual. I'm not religious. Like I'm not a certain religion. I'm spiritual. I believe in a higher power. I believe I believe there's something after this time. I've gone to organized religion as a child. I've gone to organized religion as an adult. I found that organized religion as an adult, it's when I was living in Pasadena, was more driven by the congregation and the community than it was by what was actually being said from the pulpit or what we were singing about or reading about. I liked being part of a community that was trying to solve problems and help other people in the community.
Right.
But as a younger kid, when we stopped going to church, it was my mom and dad's decision to stop going to church. And I wasn't at an age where I could say, I still want to keep going. So that, if your parents stop going to church, you just stop going. I mean, it's like, and they stopped when I was, I think, 6 or 7. So, but when I picked it up as an adult, because there was a time where I was searching for things, I was sampling a little bit, and I thought maybe I need to try religion. Maybe I need to try. And I sampled different faiths. I sampled different churches, different structures. And the church that I happened to go to in Pasadena that I really did fall in love with was an Episcopalian church. But again, it wasn't that I was like, oh, Episcopalianism is what I am. It was, I liked the community. I liked the gathering, I guess is fair to say.
Yeah. Yeah.
If that makes sense.
It does make sense. And I think that there is, I mean, we could talk about the really great things that emerge from what you're calling religion, but I would say smaller circles of community, right?
Yeah.
That allow you to not only be yourself, but to form your own relationship with source. And then we could talk about the very real horrific impact of Abrahamic religions.
Yes.
That we're seeing today.
Yes. Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's interesting what you say, Kristen, because when you're talking the path, and I think many of my listeners and viewers on the podcast, because of, other episodes I've done, the path that I was getting on, that I was searching for, was a path of authenticity, to your point, and unconditional acceptance of myself, because I knew that I was gay from a very young age, and I felt broken and wrong and dysfunctional. And so I was seeking acceptance. I was seeking guidance. I was seeking community, to your point. But I finally had to understand, if I don't fully accept myself and believe that I'm exactly the form and the person that I was meant to be, I'm never going to be able to be in community with anybody else. I mean, it's like kind of that old adage. So I think that was kind of my path, was always kind of driven by wanting to find more people. I mean, I hate to say it, but like me, or that people that kind of understood the journey that I went through, because it was, my younger years were full of a lot of not self-love and almost self-loathing and, feeling broken all the time. And,
so how do you live in the fullest expression of a human being in your own singular life in a system that only validates a very narrow version of what's acceptable, right? So you can look at a lot of different things: gender expression, sexuality, even people who are autistic, right? I have a feeling that human beings are going through a very kind of an evolution process, and the evolution isn't looking like progress, right? What we're seeing are human beings who are very sensitive to our materialistic way of living, right? So I'm not an expert on autism, but I would imagine that sensory challenges accompany most people who are diagnosed with autism, right? So the inability to communicate in a very traditional way or an acceptable way, the ability to
the norm, right? The normal, the quote way, right?
Yeah. So it's actually a great question, because I do believe one of my principles is to continue to live my own life, giving myself the greatest amount of expression in human expression that I can, and to afford that to people who are in my life, and to actually support that in society, in my state. That's all I'm going to be doing from now on. And that's incredibly important to me. But I never had to kind of I was never told I can't express myself, right? I wasn't
Mm-hmm.
given that challenge in life because I consider people whose life path is particularly challenging, whether meaning you fall outside the norm somehow.
Yeah.
Great leaders in that area and very courageous. I've never had to do that, but I understand the importance of allowing myself to do that and cultivating a community and a nation that allows people to do that.
It's beautiful. Yeah. I mean, I think for me, I feel like the calling that I'm on now, or the mission I'm on now, is I want to create physical and psychological safe spaces for people to express their authentic selves, basically, that, like, whatever that looks like, in a corporate environment, in local community, within families. I love human beings. I love the human zoo that we are. I love the diversity of humanness, and, like, we're all little snowflakes. No two of us are alike. And at my core, I love people's stories. I mean, you and I are sharing stories. And so I just am passionately committed to creating environments where people can share their stories without fear of judgment, without fear of being told your story is not welcome here. That's not normal, like this definition. And, there's so many different words, particularly in the queer community, chosen family and all these different words of what we're all trying to build. But I think at the core, people just want to be safe. They want all the definitions of safety. And I think, and I do want to talk about today's world and the environment we're in because of what you're talking about energetically. I think in the community that I spend a lot of time in the queer community, my husband is a Black man, so I spend time on the periphery. I'm never saying I'm having the Black experience, but I'm on the periphery of the Black experience. I love my in-laws and I see what they're going through. I think the last, I don't even know how long it is, but I think there's a lot of people are not feeling safe. Like a lot of people are feeling unsafe in the current environment. And that again, being the empath that I am, it's almost overwhelming to me because and so you read about it. It's interesting. You brought up autism, but you read about it in the headlines with, like, oh, there's a crisis in mental health. There's not enough mental health services. There's not enough access to this. There's not enough access to that. And to me, it's because we have a safety crisis going on and there's a lot of people feeling unsafe, And so I wonder, in the world, when you wake up, with the way that you work, with the way you live and the way you work, when you wake up and experience some of the things that are happening in the world right now. I mean, we're recording, for our listeners, we're recording in March of 2026. How do you process what's going on in the world right now?
So I think you're right about safety being an energetic, the energetic and invisible number one issue, right?
Mm.
But I also want to state that it is on purpose.
Mm.
And so I think that piece of information,
huge.
It is one thing that helps me function every day, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you understand that, there are people, because here's the thing. We all broadcast signals based on our beliefs, and what we attract is based on what we broadcast. If you are a person who has a lot of money or a lot of power, it doesn't make you good. It only makes you capable of amplifying your broadcast. So the people who are creating the fear are doing it intentionally. And I think that understanding that every day helps me not just get up and operate, but also it gives me courage because I'm not in the groups that feel unsafe. Like, it's not me. I'm a white woman, right? I'm not Jewish. I'm not queer. I'm not, there's nothing visibly that you would say that's a threat or you were, So I try to, in the last few months, I've tried to get more involved in just community organizations, supporting the people who are being made to feel afraid. but I think that making the jump from, oh, you're fine, just do this and you'll be fine. You need to make that jump mentally, right? From, these are people who are deliberately being targeted, right? And just because you don't see it on the news, because that's on purpose too. Sorry.
Correct. Yes.
So
access to information for sure.
So for me, it's about going deep, being very clear about my principles and acting on them every day, right? And so I just gave you one, which was, it's important to me to give myself the freedom and encourage the freedom for everybody else to provide places where they can express themselves. Safe places is the number one priority, without doing harm to other people.
Right.
But that colors what I do. It colors the kinds of efforts in terms of activism that I do every weekend. So so that's how I personally do it. I admit that it's not something that I have to deal with every day, but the credibility to understand that is a very real reality for people, and it is being done intentionally, is enough to light some emotions. It should be energizing some of us who've got privilege, right? And if it's not, you need to ask yourself why it's not.
Yeah, it's beautifully said. Yeah, I mean, the privilege thing is interesting because I have the privilege of making decisions because I'm a white male. I'm a cisgender white male. And so if I choose to, meaning I don't share my story or I don't I don't quote marginalize myself, I've realized, I think the responsibility I put on myself is that privilege opens up certain doors that then when I go through those doors, I have to use that influence and that privilege differently. And I've had this conversation with many, I'll get in trouble from my community about this, but, a lot of fundraisers lately and dinner parties and things that I go to, there's a lot of people talking about, well, what's your plan B? Right? Like what, they're looking about where they can get residency in other places or, where you can, get a second residency or a second citizenship. And similar to what you said, I get into some arguments about that because I'm like, well, if we that have the ability to do that, the wherewithal, the money, the privilege, the access, if we all do that, what are we doing? What are we doing for the people who are left here? Right? Like if we all say, this is too much for me, I'm going to move to X, I'm going to move to Y, and kind of bury our head in the sand, then what are we saying about those in the community that don't have that right and don't have that, not even right, but don't have that privilege or don't have that access? And it's creating division within our own community because, and by the way, again, I'm about authenticity and I'm about self-awareness. And if that's the path that somebody has to take, I'm trying not to judge them, but I won't lie, Kristen, I'm judging. I mean, I'm confronting in some cases. Depending on my relationship with the people, I will confront and challenge. It doesn't mean I make anybody change their mind, but I will say, I worry about what that means about us as a society. I worry about what that means about us as a community. Because the one thing there's so many things I'm grateful for with my parents, but my parents raised us very much with the golden rule and very much with, it was our job to take care of other people. Like there was somebody who was, my dad said it in kind of a crass way, but he would say, like, there's somebody that's always worse off than you are, basically. And that it was our job as a family. And my parents were both volunteers and in civic organizations and did a lot of work. And it was part of my sisters and my life because that's the way we were raised. And, I think that's just been ingrained in us. And so even though I understand why people are doing it, and depending on where they live, they're probably more motivated than other places. I worry if those of us in the queer community with privilege just decide to abandon hope and pull out what it's going to do to the community overall.
Yeah, it's interesting how, when you say privilege, I'm assuming we're talking about more money to afford.
Yes.
Not afford the inconvenience of not doing heaven.
Yes.
to live within your, whatever it is, your blackness, your queerness, or,
Yes.
and it's just so interesting to me because I really try hard not to judge people because everybody's got to be the own judge of what's safe for themselves and their family. So,
yeah.
But it's interesting what will happen, that money will flatten. It will flatten your, I guess, drive, right?
Yeah.
The very thing that motivated you 20 years ago, if you've got yeah, it's interesting. And that's all I'm saying. It's just interesting, right?
It is. It is. I mean, I think, you've made me think about so much, but I mean, I think my relationship with money, if that's the right way to say it, like, again, is changing. I'm grateful for it. I mean, and I, like what you described earlier, I mean, Jim early in his career is like, okay, what's it take to get promoted to that next level, right? What's my timeline? What do I need to do? 18 to 24 months? Okay, I'll do it, right? And it was the title, the money, more people reporting to you. Like there was all these measures, these very tangible measures of quote success, especially in a big corporate environment. You and I both worked in big global multinational corporations. And it was, and even getting on, the high potential list or the, you got extra development if you were called a hypo, right? And I remember when I was on the list, and then suddenly I wasn't on the list. And I was like, oh my God, what did I do now? I'm not hypo anymore. What did I do? Even I mentioned earlier, I had an executive coach. When my boss pulled me in and said, we're getting you a coach, my initial reaction was, oh my God, what did I do? Did somebody turn me in for something? Right? Like it was a bad thing. And he laughed and was like, no. This is what we give people with high potential. We want to make you even better. Right. And I was so ingrained that that I had screwed up, like the wounded child in me or whatever was like, oh my God, I have to go for extra work. Like I have to go for coaching. I'm not good enough. I had to flip that. Now it's interesting that I'm doing coaching because I see it sometimes even with my own clients. If their company suggests they go to coaching, there's a hesitancy versus an individual who says, I want coaching. Like I can feel the difference in the initial sessions of working with a new client. But, but I think my I'm grateful that I have the privilege that I've invested well and I was compensated well that gives me the opportunity to not chase the way that I had to when I was younger.
Yeah.
And I realize not everybody has that. I see it every day. So, there's so many things I'm grateful for, but I, like you, I'm trying not to be judgmental, but I feel this environment is bringing it out in me more.
I feel like through my whole corporate career, the higher up I got, and the more money I made and maybe the more visibility I had, the more internal contradiction I had to deal with.
Yeah.
It fragments your structure, your integrity. And so when people say, I want to be the CEO one day, you really need to think carefully about what that entails, because it's not about intelligence. It's going to be an exercise in how well you can fit a very specific profile. Right?
Profile, I was going to say archetype. I was thinking archetype when you said profile.
Archetype, and sometimes that archetype means just doing what you're told. A lot of it is compliance. How good you are at being compliant. And I realized maybe, 10 years ago, I'm not very compliant. Like that is not in my core architecture. My core frequency cannot just say yes all the time. And that's hard.
It is
keeping your mouth. Is. Yeah. And so, and I think that friction, that internal contradiction, maybe again, 2018 or earlier I'm thinking now that was a breaking point. I felt the contradiction in my physical health, but it was an internal contradiction in what, so I still had the goal of being whatever CEO or high up, but what was required from me was becoming too much. It was fragmenting me inside.
It was. And you were having that internal debate. You were
Yeah.
having that internal conflict. I love the way you say that. Yeah. I think for me, again, I think there's these moments, I think the forced isolation of COVID, because I was in California and we definitely did COVID. I tell everybody, we did COVID, like we weren't going out.
Mm-hmm.
I had gone through a divorce, was kind of going through a divorce right around COVID. It actually didn't get finalized during COVID. So like, I say to a lot of people, like, I was pretty much at my low point. Like I was at my bottom. Like I had been, okay, I got a severance package, but I had been laid off. Like my job was eliminated. It was the first time in my career.
Right.
I've been told you're not wanted. You're not wanted by the new company, right? Yes, they gave you a nice severance package, but that was one thing. I was going through divorce, forced isolation of COVID. I had to do a lot of self-talk and a lot of soul searching and a lot of, I call it mirror talk, like talking to myself in the mirror, talking to my dogs, who were the only people that were really around were my dogs, and Zoom calls with friends and things like that. But I think all of that kind of coming together at that time, similar to you a little bit, like with your health diagnosis, it was like that. There was like these things coming together that just kept showing to me, Jim, you're not in control. Like you're just not the force. There's other forces. And again, you have to learn how to control your reactions and what path are you going to take out of this?
Yeah.
What path is going to feel good to you? And by the way, I'm still making it up. Like, I mean, I'm every day. My mantra every day is I stand in front of the mirror and say, you're exactly who you were meant to be. And you're doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing right now. Like that's I literally do it while I'm like brushing my teeth or shaving or whatever. And I just have to keep saying that to myself. And even in the face of everything going on in the world, things that are outside of my control, I still have to say that, because if I didn't, I probably could crumble in a corner, to be honest. Like I probably could just kind of, curl up into a ball,
I often think that, and it's not a regret, but I often think, boy, it took me getting incredibly sick to really do some soul searching, because the truth is that I am not meant for corporate. But wouldn't it have been great if I did this 25 years ago? Or wouldn't it be great if we encouraged people to, consider the template that the government hands you as a starting point? Like, feel free to deviate whenever you want, right? But the most important thing is to understand yourself and how consciousness moves through you. What your beliefs, what beliefs have you been given, and whether or not you agree with those things. Because I would have been doing something very different. Honestly, I think I would have been doing something very different than corporate America.
Me too.
It would have been more entrepreneurial. And the truth is, had I done more of this consciousness work, I probably wouldn't have gotten sick.
No, I mean, who knows, right? We don't know. But what I love about what you said is, I think it's why I'm spending so much time. I spend a lot of time on college campuses with undergrads and grad students, because I want people to, they don't have to follow my path. My path is my path. They have their own path. But I wish I would have learned this 20 or 25 years ago, because I think my path would have looked very differently. Even though I stand in the mirror and say, you are doing exactly what you're meant to be doing and you are exactly who you were meant to be, I do think, because I firmly believe in fate, but I also believe that we have choices. And I can remember points in my life where I had an A or a B and I went one way, and I wonder, what would have been like to go the B way. Because I think I was having that internal conflict in my 20s, in my 30s, in my 40s already. And I kind of kept going A, because I was on that A path, and it was like the safe path, because that's what, again, back to safety, it's what I knew. But I wonder about the B path. I wonder, again, it's so funny, because I'm back to movies, and I'm going to do one wrap up question with you, but I don't know why I'm so into movies today. I spent a lot of time in Hollywood, but the movie Sliding Doors is about this. The movie Adjustment Bureau, I talk about Adjustment Bureau all the time with Matt Damon and Emily Blunt. If people haven't watched Adjustment Bureau, it's about this. It's about life giving you choices and you go through A door or B door. And it literally, both movies kind of show what happened through the A door and what happened through the B door. I just think it's so fascinating. Okay, so my wrap up question for you, which has been amazing, we could do about 7 more hours, is one of the questions that I asked, and it's such a standardized question, but I mean, our listeners and viewers have learned a lot about you today. By the way, in the show notes, everybody, all the ways to contact her will be there to follow her and her company. But what's the one question you wish I would have asked today that I didn't?
I don't know. There's so many. Like, I'm always interested in what people think happens after you die. Because I think that the answer to that question will tell you how somebody lives.
That's huge.
So that's
all right. I might have to have you on again. That's like a whole episode.
It is. Because my life has been changed dramatically because of how I view that. And it's had a huge impact on how I live my life because I'm no longer afraid of death. That doesn't mean that I diminish the grief and the fear that a lot of people have. But it's changed my life in terms of what I know happens after death.
Okay, well, now I can't end it on that. So now I need to ask, because I don't know. I mean, we have time. By the way, I'm in charge of the time. That's the best part of stuff. I know I'm respectful of how much I scheduled with you, but okay, so you answer that for me. What happened? So what do you think now with everything you've done? What do you think happens when you pass from this life, when you die?
So I talk a lot about coherence, right? Living in alignment, understanding, being able to observe your thoughts and feelings so that you can align your actions. I think that when we die, we simply decohere. Decohere meaning that we simply, our bodies disintegrate. We know that, but our energy goes on. I mean, physics will tell you again and again, energy can be neither created nor destroyed. It just transforms. And I think that I would love for our society to get to a point where we actually saw it as this wonderful transition, right? To ease some of the grief, because there's always going to be that. We're humans.
There's always grief, right?
All. But it's transformed me just from a fear reduction standpoint. And actually, it's made me a little excited. Doesn't that sound? I know it sounds crazy.
No. I admire that because I'm not there yet. Just being honest. Have you thought about, because of the transformation, the decohering? Like, okay, I'm just going to ask it. You don't have to answer. You want to, like, what do you want done with your physical body?
Yeah. And the answer that I would have answered much differently 10 years ago, but now I'm not. I think that I will have done whatever. I will be cremated, or I'll probably do that thing in California where they naturally they toss you around for 6 months, and then you get put into mulch.
I was gonna say I would have guessed, and I just met you, that I felt you going into the earth. I did feel it's interesting for me because I don't know what mine's called either, but I want something with water, right? Like I want to be part of like a coral reef, or there's like the Neptune Society. There's like different things. I haven't fully investigated this yet, but
you can do cremation by water. Did you know that?
You can do cremation by water without fire?
Yes.
Oh, okay. We may need to talk about that offline because water is such a big part of it. I'm a fire sign. I'm an Aries, and water is so calming to me that I've definitely gotten that far in my path. Okay, Kristen, this has been amazing. I am so honored that you spent this time, and it was amazing to meet you. And I want to have so many more conversations, whether it's on a Zoom call or not, or a podcast or not. I mean, to everybody, I went on her website. I took the onboard. I told her I thought it was brilliant. And now I'm going to look at these waters because I found out I'm a little zinc challenged and CO2. I was very CO2. I told you I was looking at it when you came on. I was CO2 challenged.
So,
I need your kit, I realized.
oh, the calibration set, right?
Calibration kit, because but I was more CO2 challenged. CO2 most, copper. Yes. It was interesting. I loved it. And I thought it was so well done and so educational in such a short time. So kudos to you on that.
I'd love to come back on and talk about fields and how our own biofields, our aura, are incredibly important for understanding how we stay healthy as human beings.
Yeah. You and I, this is going to be like a 2 or 3 part series. I love finding people like you. Thank you so much. Have an amazing day. Thank you to all my kind and curious listeners and viewers. I know this is a good one. I can't wait to see the comments on this one. And everybody have a wonderful day. Thanks for spending this time with us on Ask for an Answer. If this conversation sparks something for you, don't just nod and move on. Take one idea, one question, one uncomfortable and bring it into your next meeting, your next one-on-one, or your next big decision. That's how this becomes a practice, not just a podcast. If you're leading a team, a classroom, a company, or just your own next chapter, you don't have to have it all figured out. You do have to be willing to listen, to ask better questions, and to create the kind of safety where people will actually tell you what they see. If this episode was useful, share it with someone who's in the arena with you. And if you want more tools, stories, and real talk leadership moments, make sure you follow the show and leave a review so others can find us. I'm Jim Fielding. Thank you for being here, for leading with less armor and more intention. Until next time, stay curious, stay kind, and keep asking for an answer.